Greetings and welcome. My name is Damascena, and I am the creator of a really unique Venus path called SkyDancer. And I wanted to talk just a little bit about the invitation the Venus cycle gives us. Ever since I became an astrologer, it has been very clear to me that the Venus cycle is actually a deep invitation to a profound spiritual path. And what I teach in SkyDancer is essentially I hand um, my students the keys to this spiritual journey. And it's a spiritual journey that is a consistent and never ending spiral. So once you're handed the keys or the template to Venus's mandala, and you can kind of unlock um, what her deeper invitation is, you can continue on this journey forever and ever. And why I like it is because spiraling and the kind of way we evolve through that act of like a non-linear spiral is, I think, um, one of the most important ways to evolve. We kind of hold healing and transformation in our current paradigm as like this power over thing. Like, I am going to heal this wound into submission so that I don't have to deal with it anymore. And I've even come to the point where I don't really love using the word healing at this point, because I feel like it's been overused and it tends to denote that very idea. It's kind of that thing about I'll be happy when, like when I heal this thing, then I'll finally be liberated or free of XYZ. With Venus, the invitation is um, to look deeply at parts of ourselves through work with the archetypes and through like different energy centers that govern specific psychic and psychological themes. But we're not looking at it from the point of needing to heal it or to kind of put it into submission. It's more like a gentle disrobing. We are taking off layer by layer, and then we'll come around and hit it again from like another fractal in a different cycle, right? And so essentially, the Venus story is the story of Inanna. The ancients were sky watching back in the Mesopotamian times. They saw this gorgeous bright light Venus, who is very prominent in our night sky, and how she changed positions and how she moved and how she was extraordinarily reliable in her cycle. And they either created this myth, if you think it's just a myth, or this gorgeous being in Anna who really embodied the sky story existed. Anyhow, the way that her cycle works is it is like a mapped. If you know the story of Inanna, let me go at it from this way. Inanna is this goddess who hears the call of her sister Erishkigal in the underworld. And so instead of being um, plunged onto this journey of disrobing and visiting the underworld, Inanna chooses to go. And I think that that's really important in this day and age. Like, we do not have a good relationship to death, to the dark, to the unconscious, to the unknown, to the underworld. We mostly fear it, and a lot of our kind of wonky human patterns can actually be translated into simply resistance of that place, right? And so Inanna, in her myth, hears the call of Erishkigal, and she decides that she is going to go and see her. And Erishkigal is the queen of the underworld. And in preparation for this journey, she travels around to the different cities in ancient Mesopotamia and takes the royal knee. And I love this kind of nod to this idea that the royal vestments of power she gathers to keep her safe on her journey are called the royal knee, right? Because this journey is about us, and who better to take us on the journey is this sense of like getting more in touch with ourselves through exploring what will be disrobing. And I know that was kind of confusing because my train of thought went a little funny there. So, anyhow, Inanna goes to collect these royal vestments of power, things that she thinks will keep her safe. And she approaches the gates to the underworld and thinks that she's going to have this smooth ride down through the gates. She doesn't realize even that there's more than one gate. And at the first gate, she's asked to relinquish one of her royal mees to the guardian of that gate. And she gets worried. She's concerned that perhaps she may not have enough of these royal mees or vestments of power to help her continue to power through these gates. Now, she's a goddess of the upper world, so she is very used to the kind of like power over paradigm that we live in. And so she's thinking that she'll be able to power through these gates, but instead, she's finding that these are gates of surrender. And so each of the 7 gates she travels through, she's asked to give a piece of these royal mees to the gate guardian until finally at the final gate, she's got no more left. And in the underworld, she is then finally naked and bowed low before the deity that is there. And I think it's a very apt kind of analogy for the kind of work that we do in the feminine. You know, in masculine spiritual paradigms, it's like we're putting on more spiritual clothes. We're learning spiritual techniques. There's a lot of spiritual materialism. But in feminine spirituality, it's all about getting to who we are through finding out who we are not. And we do that by, you know, these kind of mini ego deaths through taking off our learned and conditioned behaviors, through inspecting our learned and conditioned patterns, and really revealing the essence self, the essence of what I call the essence self, or the essence of who we truly are. And that process happens on the descent side of Venus's journey. And so Inanna's story goes on, and we'll learn the deep intricacies of this story inside of SkyDancer. But Inanna's story goes on that she is eventually slain, hung on a meat hook, and then reborn. And Venus is the ruler or the transmitter of the birth, death, and resurrection stories, or the birth, death, and resurrection rites. And so any paradigm that's got resurrection inside of it is actually related to Venus. After she is reborn, she climbs up the 7 gates, and this mirrors the evening star side of Venus's cycle. And it's a whole other journey, and it's a little bit different. So instead of disrobing on the evening star side, what we're doing is emerging back into the world, still very connected to the essence self that was revealed through the process of descent. And we are only putting on what is true on that side of the journey. So it's a journey of growing and building and becoming who we truly are out in the world. And it is such a profound, consistent spiral of descent, underworld, emergence, only to begin it all over again. So at the top of Venus's descent journey, we say that she begins this journey in the crown chakra. And so we begin to look at what the crown chakra governs from a psychic and psychological perspective. What themes might we find there? And then we look at the kind of psychic splits that have occurred because of the paradigms, long-held beliefs that are sort of distorted to the human experience. And we begin to heal those at the first gate. We begin to take off our programming that isn't true, that keeps us outside of our humanity. Feminine spirituality is always a deeper descent into the body. It's a marriage of the human and the divine. Whereas in masculine spirituality, it's usually the ascent path only and the supernal kind of looking only towards the light, and it's a disavowal of the darkness. And what we're doing in feminine spirituality and in SkyDancer is very holistic, because not only do we not disavow the dark, we embrace it as an informative, nurturing, and even fertile place to be. And so then as Venus moves through her journey, it looks like she descends further through the sky And at the next gateway, we look at our gateway of perception in the third eye chakra. And we um, take off all of our programming and outdated behaviors, the ways of being that are not healthful for the third eye to be able to function properly and in alignment and to be connected with the greater sky story. And then we move to the throat, and the throat is a very, very deep and one of my favorite chakras to work with. In this chakra, we work with the story of Cassandra, who was a goddess that was given the gift of prophecy by the god Apollo. And then when she wouldn't, and he gave it to her as a hook in order for her to have relations with him. And when she rebuffed his advances, he took it away from her and cursed her with not being able to have her prophecies believed. And so she was a deep truth teller who people cast as crazy or hysterical or schizophrenic. They didn't believe her. And this is a deep experience that women have all of the time. I know that anybody who's been to the doctor with a complaint and had that complaint rebuffed, only to find out later that she was indeed experiencing something very real, has had a Cassandra-like experience. And there's definitely a wound there to look at. And so we look at that in the throat chakra, and then we look at like, how do we heal? And I don't love this word. How do we be with and meet that part of us, establish a relationship with it so that we can move more into the archetype of the Sibyl, which is the prophetess or the oracle who can speak with authority. She speaks and her words are heard. And so this journey is just, it's so deep. I don't want to give away all my secrets. Of course, this is a mystery school, but I did want to talk a little bit about what the invitation is when you're coming into SkyDancer, what things we'll be looking at. We'll be definitely looking at and learning the Venus cycle as a map to a deep and profound spiritual journey. We'll be taken through so many layers and corridors of our own selves so that we can have a deep relationship with Venus. Once we've sort of begun to clear away the debris that's left in these different centers, we become a kind of clear vessel that then the universe can come in and co-create with. We're able to hear and touch into our own oracular gnosis once these fields are sort of clear, and we become our own kind of prophetess, able to touch into our own revelation. And revelation happens easily and spontaneously on this path because it's a feminine path, because we're learning the language of symbolism and synchronicity. We're learning to listen to the realm of the nonlinear and how it informs our lives. So there's so many women that come into SkyDancer and leave feeling more empowered and more aligned and more in touch with who they truly are versus who the world wants us to show up as. And versus like, there's a way that we don't even realize how many mechanisms are working when we show up anywhere to any place in our lives until we really begin to inspect the different, what is offered at the different gateways, the invitations here. So there is the Venus cycle and the astrology piece. I transmit Venus's curriculum in the moment. So I'm always looking at where Venus is and what the deeper invitation is. So this cycle is the Venus in Leo overarching cycle. And at the beginning of this cycle, Leo was conjunct Black Moon Lilith, which is a very deep medicine. It's a deep call for women to come into their innate and organic power, to reestablish the channels and the connections to our animal and instinctual body, and to really bring our expression fully out. And I've done a whole bunch of transmissions that are public and will stay public while SkyDancer is open for enrollment. If you want to check those out, you can kind of see what some of the deeper layers we'll be diving into are. And so there's that. There's the way that where Venus is in the sky is the call to the feminine in the moment. So we aren't learning some kind of like outdated curriculum. We're in direct contact with the forces of evolution now. What is being asked of us right in this moment? So there's the Venus cycle, the astrology, and then the architecture of the course is the cycle. It is the gateways. And so while the structure stays the same from cycle to cycle, meaning we are always either descending with Venus based on where she is in the sky, or ascending with Venus based on where she is in the sky, the lessons shift based on what she's doing. So that is just a little synopsis of SkyDancer. I wanted this to be a super short video for you so that you can touch in with it. If it piques your interest, please go to the link below, find the SkyDancer box, and under overview, you will be able to find all of the preliminary transmissions that we have done so far. Or if this is just a yes for you, if you know it's a yes now, you can hit that SkyDancer box and sign up immediately. I can't wait to see you in Temple. We begin soon. Bye.